Welcome to an XTIVIA demo, delivering the information you need for the business future you want. We are sharing our knowledge to help your business thrive in today's new normal. My name is Alex Killian, and I'm the video producer here on XTIVIA's marketing team. And today you'll be hearing from one of our GovCon experts, the head of our GovCon division, Paul Skirpsky. Paul is the Vice President of Sales at GovCon 365 and directs all new client acquisition activities. He's widely regarded in government contracting circles as one of the industry's true experts on government contracting financial management solutions. His experience in process improvement and enterprise systems has helped him deliver exceptional enterprise inventory and financial management solutions. Paul sits on the board of several industry associations, including the Small and Emerging Contractor Advisory Forum, and frequently speaks and conducts webinars on topics of interest for companies providing services or selling products to the federal government. And to tell you just a little bit about XTIVIA before we dive into the demo this morning, for nearly 3 decades, we've been providing a variety of expert IT services to hundreds of businesses in countless industries. If you can imagine the business outcome, XTIVIA can create it with technology. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Paul this morning.
All right. Well, thanks, Alex. And just to build a little bit on some of the things that XTIVIA, how we're helping organizations in terms of digital transformation, these pillars highlight some of the areas of focus for our organization. So around database management, we can be your outsourced DBA, and we built a strong practice around that over the last 25 plus years. Data warehousing and business intelligence in today's new digital age has become a huge focus for businesses, and we can help you with not only assessing where you're at, but also building that roadmap into the future. Today's presentation is going to focus on the far right pillars around capturing enterprise information, as well as ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning Solutions. We're excited to have been one of the early partners with Microsoft on their cloud strategy regarding Dynamics 365 Business Central. To give you a little insight into our experience around Dynamics, we've been focused on a particular vertical market, in this case, government contracting, since 2002. Our focus has expanded with XTIVIA to include other businesses that focus on services for the commercial space, whether it be distribution or professional services. We've become Microsoft's #1 partner in the government contracting vertical, and we've also received many awards from Microsoft, whether it be Partner of the Year, as well as being one of their technology adoption partners. Our focus on government contractors has led us to be an expert not only within the Microsoft channel, but outside of Microsoft and in the community at large. Some of the things that we're doing for government contractors, I guess the first thing to mention is the sub-verticals within government contracting that we focus on are services companies, which is probably 70% of our client base, because on the government side, there's a lot of professional services organizations. But a couple of the areas that we really differentiate ourselves and we demonstrate strong capabilities around product sales and also contract manufacturing. And as this country focuses on building more manufacturing capabilities internally, that continues to be a growth area for Microsoft and for XTIVIA. Some of the things these organizations are looking for is DCA compliance, which, if you're selling into the defense agencies, are a certain set of requirements that systems need to meet in order to be compliant with government standards. There's some additional requirements that have come out recently around NIST compliance, that's the 800-171 compliance, around supporting and tracking unclassified information for those contract manufacturers' ITAR compliance. Some of the areas that we're helping these organizations are improving the reporting and also improving the overall operational efficiencies. Organizations often feel siloed, where there's information in multiple systems. And with Microsoft Dynamics, we can bring it all together into one common data set with one version of the truth. And that's helping organizations to be more effective in not only long-term planning, but in critical decision-making. Our ERP practice, one of the things that differentiates us, like I mentioned, is our focus on vertical markets, in particular government contracting, but also our staff. So we've long focused on Dynamics 365, Business Central, and also the prior iterations, Dynamics NAV and Navision software. Our implementation folks have been working with Dynamics, a lot of them for over 20 years. And the kinds of services we're providing are full implementation support, also migrating your legacy data, training your staff, and ongoing support and development within those applications. As an organization, XTIVIA is focused on really helping to be your one partner for everything Microsoft. So whether it be on the customer experience side with sales and marketing, on the ERP side with Dynamics 365, now called Business Central, human resources, which used to be called talent, everything around reporting. So we're going to talk a little bit about Power BI today, as well as we can mention some aspects around the back end, which is SQL Server, data management, as well as cloud solutions. So whether you're using the native Microsoft application hosted in the commercial cloud, or you want to move other applications up to Azure or the Azure government cloud, XTIVIA can be your partner of choice there. All right, so I want to give you a little insight into Dynamics 365 Business Central. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start that demonstration right now. All right, so I'm going to start off a little bit in terms of the role-tailored client. And the idea of the role-tailored client is that it's a way that the homepage can be personalized for an end user, with the focus being around simplicity and ease of use, as well as efficiency. So what you're seeing from this homepage is this user has certain aspects of the application right at their fingertips. In this case, I'm logged in with one of the roles that XTIVIA has designed for a project accountant within a government contractor business. You're able to get the information like contracts, jobs, subcontracts, etc. Each of these data elements is just one click away from getting me information about that record. As I scroll down the interface, you'll see what's called activity queues. These activity queues are just workloads showing me current status on, in this case, my timesheet, which shows I've got 20 hours entered to date, with no timesheet corrections or expense reports that need to be processed. One of the true visions and what Microsoft has executed on is bringing the stack together. So one of the exciting parts of the Microsoft stack today is Power BI. So Power BI is the dashboard and reporting tool. And what Microsoft has done is not only integrated Power BI with Dynamics 365, but also embedded it back into the solution. So if you have any particular reports that have been designed in Power BI that you want to put onto your desktop, you can choose that report and make it available from your home page, as well as sharing it with others. So these are great ways that a user can get to the information that they need in a timely fashion. But the thing that we see is every company is different. And oftentimes, even users within the company, how they use the application is different. So Microsoft allows a user to personalize that experience to put just the information that they need on their home page. So if any of these sections are ones that I don't get into on a regular basis, in this case, my planning worksheet, not something I need to see, I can go ahead and hide that. But for instance, the item list is something that's important because I help to manage inventory for the organization. I can turn that view on. So by just clicking show. Once I click done, now my interface has been updated to display just the information that's imperative to me operating in my role. You'll see that throughout the application. So when I go to one of the underlying pages from my role center, in this case, I'll go to the vendor list, you'll have that same ability to personalize that user experience to just see information that you need in terms of data entry, as well as getting access to information regarding that vendor. So let me go ahead and I'll select the vendor list here. So now I'm in my list of vendors. The first thing you can see, over to the right-hand side, I've got a list of documents that are associated with that vendor. On the left-hand side is my list of vendors. So as I scroll across, you'll see information like their contact data, zip, and also what is the balance due. So I don't need to run a report to see some KPIs about this vendor, in this case, balance due. Also on the right-hand side, you'll see other statistics. Not only their balance, but outstanding orders. How much have we received from this vendor, but we haven't invoiced yet, etc. Each one of these tiles allows me to drill into it to see the detail. So if I wanted to understand what are the outstanding orders from this vendor, I can click on that $71,000, and it's going to take me into a list of all of my outstanding orders for that vendor that total up to that total amount. I can pull up the PO to see details if needed. So the idea is giving me information at my fingertips, but also that ability to drill down and get specific information related to that vendor. When I mentioned the document management, this links back to SharePoint. So if you need one place to store information about whether it be your vendor, customer, or projects, SharePoint becomes that common repository. I talked about Microsoft blending the lines between the entire stack. This is another example, how SharePoint can be integrated with Dynamics as well as Power BI. My first personal experience with Microsoft was with the Office Suite. And that's another one of the places where Microsoft has pulled in capabilities and data related to the Office Suite into Business Central. So on every list and ledger page, in this case I'm on a vendor list, I can either open or edit data in Excel. The Edit Excel option allows me to send the data off to Excel, and once it's in Excel, actually edit and update publishing back into Business Central. So if you need to make some kind of mass update across the application, it becomes a simple and easy way to perform that function. So you can see over on the right-hand side, I've got my Dynamics Office add-in for Excel. It's going to validate and authenticate me as a user, as well as my access to the table. One of the things that's a big differentiator is that once I send the data off to Excel, being able to edit it, the risk part is typically that edit function. What people worry about is, are you going to break the business logic? But once you publish back into Excel, it takes it through all the normal business logic to prevent you from making mistakes. So whether it's not allowing you to update the balance due because it's a subledger underneath, or the fact that there's certain fields that might be, a numeric field or alphanumeric field, or have certain restraints, the system's going to prevent me from making those kind of mistakes. That's what it means to send it through the business logic to ensure that we don't have any issues with data integrity inside of Dynamics from that update back from Excel. So another one of the great things that Microsoft is doing is pulling in those Office features like edit in Excel, as well as being able to email out of the system, and also, as we talked about, being able to place documents against a record, in that case, dropping it into SharePoint. All right, so let me go ahead and, looks like I had a connection issue. We'll go ahead and, for the sake of time, we'll skip over that piece to make sure we can fit everything in today. All right, so next thing I want to talk a little bit about is some of the other Microsoft elements that are built into the application that are helping businesses to be more efficient as well as collaborate. I'm going to go to the item card to talk a little bit about these kind of capabilities and show you how we're leveraging the workflow engine that Microsoft has designed as part of Power Automate to make workflow really available throughout the application. So in this case, when I'm on an item, if I need to create a flow, yeah, I can identify that I want to build a new flow, or I can use one of the existing flows. So in this case, within Power Automate, I've got a flow specific to the item record, and what it allows me to do is trigger an approval process that is available, across the application. So, once I need to request that flow, I can actually review it inside of Flow, or it can be triggered inside of Dynamics. So today, I'm not going to go through the whole process of building a flow, but just important to identify that, that Power Automate solution, is available inside of Dynamics. All right. So the next thing I want to touch on is, we showed earlier that idea of Power BI being embedded inside of Business Central. I want to show you an example of some Power BI views, as well as things that we've done for the government contracting vertical to make Power BI a more relevant solution for those organizations. So let me go ahead and I'll jump into my Power BI data set. And one of the things from Power BI's perspective that they've improved recently is that ability to collaborate inside of teams with Power BI. So whether you want to, send a Power BI off to teams or have some kind of comments and communication, you can certainly do that. Power BI is the dashboard and reporting tool, and whether the user wants to go directly into Power BI or get access within Business Central, either is an option, but it's still that one source of truth. All the information, whether it's coming from Business Central or sales, is available via Power BI, with the ability to tailor that security and make sure that people only see the information that's relevant to their role. In this case, I'm seeing in the top right-hand corner information about revenue by customer. To the left-hand side, revenue and budget by project. And then down in the body is giving me details about each individual project and the overall performance and costing detail. Each one of these visual tiles is interactive. So if I pick a particular customer, the other sections are going to auto-update to just show information relevant to that specific customer in this case. Down in the body, now we're seeing a trend over time of revenue, as well as costs and profit by that individual project. Each of these reports can have drill down or drill through. In this case, I'm just going to highlight one element of drill through, which allows me to take the user to subsequent reports about, in this case, that project. So whether it's the AR balance, time detail, etc., I can get into that information to answer questions about that project. So in this case, I'll go to the project status, and this is going to show me more details about this individual project. So we mentioned earlier in the presentation, one of these elements around government contracting is tracking your funding and funded backlog. So now on the right-hand side, I've got all the individual tasks on that project, and up above showing the funded value, funded backlog, revenue, etc. Now I see a chart trending that revenue and budgeted revenue over time. And that drill through has revealed additional details about this job. In this case, how much cost in terms of labor across my different labor category codes, and any type of other direct costs, whether it be materials, travel, etc. Each of the WBS codes on the right allow me to filter that set to just see information related to that task. So now on the requirement side, I can see total funded value as well as funded backlog for that specific task. So again, kind of just focusing on that message of, that one Microsoft solution, we're bringing everything together inside of Business Central, whether it be Power Automate, Power BI, the integration with Office, as well as leveraging SharePoint as a document management solution. So that gives you a nice general overview in terms of how the Office suite as well as the Microsoft stack can be pulled into Business Central and leveraged. Related to Business Central, for folks on this webinar that haven't seen it before, I want to give you a little insight into what is Business Central and what are the capabilities. And then I'm going to finish up the presentation around things that XTIVIA has done to improve the application specific to a government contractor. But also I want to really send that message that no matter what your industry, there's probably industry-specific apps to help meet your needs. So at the end of the presentation, if you're looking to improve your ERP or financial management solution, let us know your industry and where you might need help. And we'd be happy to see where we can assist, especially if you're a government contractor. So when I go into the full menu here, you see the kind of capabilities that Microsoft Dynamics Business Central delivers. So whether it be human resources, we also are an HR partner. So it used to be called Talent, now Dynamics 365 Human Resources for the full-blown HRIS. But within the ERP, we've got everything around purchasing management. So whether it be the full purchasing side, the planning and ordering, as well as inventory and costing. So service orders, whether you've got service contracts with the requirement to dispatch those service techs. There's a full service management capabilities. Administration, so whether it be workflows, we talked a little bit about Power Automate. Rapid Start, this is the way that we can bring data from your existing application into Business Central. So typically we're using Excel as that intermediate step, but it's made migrating legacy data much easier. Manufacturing businesses. So whether you're manufacturing goods for the federal government or a commercial manufacturing organization, there's full-blown manufacturing capabilities from the design side of defining your bill of material and routings, all the way through the planning and execution of MRP and MPS. Resource management, full warehousing capabilities, finance, so your core finance modules, including some of the things that I hear a lot of feedback on that has been big differentiators is around cash management. So whether it's cash flow forecasting, as well as integrating with your bank, these are ways we can help automate things that you might be doing manually today. Projects and project planning, as well as sales order processing. It's also got an integration back into Dynamics 365 Sales. So like I mentioned earlier, we are a Dynamics 365 Sales partner. So if you're looking for an end-to-end solution from sales through finance and delivery, XTIVIA is your partner to support you in those efforts. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that XTIVIA has done to make the solution more powerful as well as compliant for a government contractor. Where I'm going to start is on the contract side. So contracts, these are synonymous with the term IDIQ or BPA. These are agency or government-wide vehicles that allow you to provide your services to the federal government. So even if you're a commercial company and interested in getting into the federal space, and we see that a lot today because the government is always spending. So certainly it's a way to hedge your bets from the commercial market. So in this case, I've got a GSA schedule. I've got information about the government contracting office, as well as IFF, or what's called industrial funding fee. These are the fees that you might have to pay either the government or in this case, quasi-government GSA for selling products and services on your schedule. In this case, it's a 0.75% fee that you're paying GSA for any kind of products sold or services through their schedule. Within the contract, we've built out contract rules, as well as the ability to track contacts on that contract vehicle, comments, item catalog, as well as predefined T&M pricing. So these T&M bill rates are the way I can capture my predefined bill rates and send those through the billing process to automate from time capture through billing the whole labor process. All right, so next thing we'll talk a little bit about are the project side of it, or jobs. So jobs are how I'm performing the work. And again, whether I'm a commercial organization or I'm a government contractor, if I'm providing professional services, jobs or projects are the way we're going to deliver solutions to clients, track the costing side as well as bill for it. On the right-hand side, again, you see that same fact box with the ability to drill in the details. As I open up one of my job records, I'm not going to get into all the details about setting up a job, but I do want to mention that where you can see the differentiation in terms of things we've added, with the cloud solution, Microsoft has what they call apps and extensions. So if you go to the Microsoft App Store and search for government contracting solutions, you'll find the XTIVIA app on that Microsoft App Store. So it's been submitted and approved by Microsoft. On the government contracting tab, these are all the things that we've done to improve the product around government contractors from a setup perspective. So it's kind of like the higher level information, everything from billing and revenue details, as well as tracking information about the contract vehicle, that we talked about earlier. Additional information that we're providing, or additional capabilities, are around things like providing more depth to project tracking. So the work breakdown structure, or WBS, is the way that you can define how you want to bill, as well as how you want to fund any of these contracts. Similar concepts are also relevant for nonprofit organizations, as well as commercial organizations. Other areas that we improve the system are around tracking budget details. So we've really expanded and improved the budget tracking. Creating alerts. So alerts are an automated way to inform people that something has happened on that particular contract. So really trying to drive improvements of how people interact with data. So instead of just running a report, you can get alerted based on some particular condition being met. In this case, I'm looking to compare what we spent or billed compared to what's been funded or budgeted. And then sending those alerts out to users, whether it be the PM, task manager, or individual employees, when that condition is met. So instead of me having to run the report every day, the system informs me and really helps me to stay tuned to what's going on my project. We've also added capabilities around the billing process. So automation, as well as compliance on the billing side, and also government formats, and then built out a series of reports in the solution. The next thing we'll just touch on the services side, is that once you set up a job, now it's time to perform against that job. So other areas where we've extended the solution are around timesheets. So Microsoft, the base system, has some general timesheet capabilities, but what we've done at XTIVIA is really created a more robust time entry solution that competes with the point solutions that are out there in terms of timekeeping. So everything from notifications when people need to approve time or they haven't entered time from the prior period, tracking changes, the ability to print your timesheet as well as submit, setting favorites. So users only have access to the timesheet codes that they're assigned to, but they can also define their own set of favorites on the timesheet side. We've also built out a series of views from your mobile device. So oftentimes companies, they have a policy of bring your own device, right? So if you have an organization where people use Android and Apple devices, we've built out a timesheet, expense, and PTO tracking from your mobile phone to perform all those critical functions. All right, so that gives you a little insight into the timekeeping side. I'm going to touch on a couple of other things on the services side. And then I'm just going to mention a couple things in terms of products, whether it be contract manufacturing or product distribution. So on the services side, also expense tracking, PTO, and requisitions. I just want to touch on a couple things for expense reports because, again, the base Microsoft Dynamics didn't have expense tracking. So we've added that into it so you've got one place to perform all those critical business functions. So as a user travels for work, they can just identify where they travel to. So I'll just say travel to a new client. If I received in advance, I can enter that, the period that I traveled. For companies that are traveling and they need to bill the client based on per diems, we built the per diem wizard into the system. If you just need to record costs, you can just go ahead and record the cost against the project task, identify the amount, and whether this expense was paid for by you or you use the company card to pay for it. If you need to track mileage, system will also allow you to do that mileage tracking. So you can just record the miles. The system will identify what the reimbursement amount is to the employee. So again, the idea is make it simple for the end user to perform those functions and give you, if you're a government contractor, the compliance needs, and for any professional services companies, help fill in that last mile of capabilities so you don't have to leverage point solutions. More and more what we see is that people have corporate credit cards. And one of the things that we've done is provide the ability to import charges from a credit card statement. So whether it's Visa or Amex, you can import that file. It fills in your data for you. And then we've got some automation to help code it. So the automation allows me to do things like split charges across different projects, or just identify, because on your Amex card, it doesn't know what project you are charging to. So we can take those charges and say, charges for a certain time frame all go against a certain project potentially. So again, trying to help with automation to help people to be more efficient, and again, doing it all in one application. All right, so I've got just a few minutes left, and I'd like to cover just some topics around product side of it, and then we'll open it up in case there's any questions out there. So on the product side, for contract manufacturers, one of the biggest things is that if you need to capture costs by project, the system can support that by identifying a specific project location. So what we do is we tie the location to the job. So now any labor costs, as well as any material costs, can not only be captured against the production order and flow to the general ledger, but also go against the project. So if you need to do any contract or project-based manufacturing, there's a lot more underneath this, but really we've done the same thing on the manufacturing side, is build capabilities that allow you to perform functions and not have to rely on third-party products or operate outside of the application, sometimes in Excel. So that is one example on the manufacturing side. And then the last thing that I'll mention is for companies that resell products, we've enhanced the quoting system. So on the quoting side, we've done things like if you're working with a distributor and you need to import data from Excel into a quote, you can do that, as well as identify contract vehicles that you're selling products against. So again, this is if you're selling into the federal government or even state and local governments, we provide that ability to sell products against the contract, have contract-specific pricing, as well as we talked earlier about that idea of contract rules. All right, so the last thing I want to just touch on here, and then we're going to just take a few questions and make sure that we get everybody else out on time, is that I'd be remiss to not touch a little bit about the financial aspect of the system, because at the core is finance. You know, even though we've got these modules for those sub verticals for service companies, for professional services companies, manufacturing, as well as distribution companies, I do want to talk a little bit about the general ledger, because this is one of the things that Microsoft has done to really help companies that want to migrate, whether it be, you know, you're migrating from QuickBooks or you're migrating from other mid-market solutions, to make it easier for people to really get access to data and build views that are critical to your role. So just want to talk a little bit about the chart of accounts, as well as a concept called dimensions, because dimensions is relevant to all businesses. So the chart of accounts, it's a 20-character alphanumeric field. We've got some pre-built chart of accounts for certain industries. One of the things that Microsoft has now done is build in account subcategories. So now we can have pre-built reports based on the chart of accounts. So, you know, whether it be your income statement, the balance sheet side of it, we can pre-build standard views, and you can also get to the information directly from the chart of accounts. So all of these numbers, like we talked about before, are drill down. So I can drill into my cost of materials account of 500,000. It's going to take me into all the historical transactions. So whether they come from journal entries, invoices, etc., I can pull up that information, and then also navigate across the system to get to other details. That navigate function allows me to go back to the source document. So in this case, I want to get to the invoice. I can find those related entries and get to the details as needed. All right. The last thing from this section is I talked about that idea. Let me drill back in for 1 second. I talked about that idea of dimensions. And what dimensions allow me to do is define how I want to segment or tag data. So let's go ahead and we'll pull up an example of a dimension and talk about how it might be relevant to your organization. So in this case, when this transaction was posted, what you see is that it was tagged with a certain department, in this case, Department of Defense. It had a job. It also had a job task, as well as a separate dimension task on that job. So these dimension codes can be defined by the organization, and it allows me to build reports that can be specific to a department, job, or whatever your dimension combinations are. So if you have trouble reporting, you know, we talked earlier about that reporting need. You have trouble reporting and you're trying to tag data and feed it back to the executive team, dimensions is the way to handle that task. And Microsoft gives you the ultimate amount of flexibility to add, you know, an unlimited number of options to the dimension string. And then you've got your standard 8 dimensions that are going to flow through to the general ledger. All right, so I see that I've got one question that came through. So the question is regarding, everybody always wants to know about cost. So, you know, what is the cost for the solution, as well as what is the length of time to implement? So the cost side is a lot easier than the length of time to implement. So maybe if you want to just leave contact information in the question panel, we can give you details about the time frame to implement, because that really depends on the amount of data that we need to migrate, the size of your business, as well as the modules. In terms of the cost, that's actually very straightforward. So Microsoft has a published price list. There are 3 standard SKUs for the cloud version of Business Central. So let me go to my technical challenge. There we go. All right, so in terms of the cost, there's 3 types of users. You've got the full user for manufacturing and services companies, which is $100 per user per month. These are all named users. The next level down is what's called an essential user. And that's for companies, these are full users for companies that aren't manufacturers or need the service management, and those are $70. And then there's a team member, which is $8. So really straightforward and easy pricing, no long-term contracts. And in terms of the value, I would say it is the most cost-effective and valuable solution out there in terms of ERP. So very fairly priced.
So Paul, it looks like we've gotten a couple more questions in here.
Okay.
First off, do you license all of these solutions?
Yeah, so great question. So we do. There's two ways to purchase Dynamics 365 Business Central. You can either use what's called the CSP or Cloud Service Provider license, which is the pricing I just mentioned. There is another license model, which is a perpetual license for people that want to purchase. So Microsoft still does offer that. But in addition to Business Central, we also license all the other cloud products. So whether you're looking for Office 365 licensing as well as cloud migrations, we can help there. Sales, the entire cloud stack, XTIVIA can provide licensing support as well as answering the licensing questions you might have.
Okay, awesome. And another question we got, this looks like it might take some time to set up. Do you help with that?
Yeah, so we certainly do. That is one of the things that we mentioned earlier was, the folks that we have been working with this product for over 20 years. And we really work with the client because some clients want to do more themselves and some need more support. So we work with you to figure out what is the right approach for your business. But we provide that support from the initial sales process to evaluate it all the way through the delivery and ongoing support.
Okay, excellent. Well, it looks like that's all the questions we've gotten in this morning. Paul, thank you so much for the demo. We really appreciate it. And as Paul mentioned, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions, and definitely check out our website. We've got lots of great assets on there for you to check out. There's the Snack Time Snippet series where Paul and Mark go over some of these features you saw and some additional things as well. So definitely check those out.
Well, thanks, Alex, and thanks to the whole PASS community for joining us today, and have a wonderful afternoon.